Warning. This month's podcast is about movies with murder, sex, orgies, and leather. If this sort of thing offends you, you should skip the block. This podcast is sponsored by Table Rock Creative Group. Unique video for your business. He hopes he doesn't have to kill a woman to see a pair of bare breasts again. Garrick Lane. He always gouges the eyes out of dolls during sex. Lee Bridges. He chokes every hooker who demands payment while smoking a cigarette. Doug Wall. This is Tales from the Video Store. And we're back.
Hello, Garrick. How was your week?
Well, it's still going. I am a little bit tired. My daughter's birthday is today.
Nice.
And I had to paint the rock at their school last night. I didn't get around to it till 10. And what should have taken about an hour took about 3 hours. Because I don't know when to stop when it comes to painting and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I don't know when to just go, all right, that's good enough. So I'm adding like details and shadows. And next thing you know, it's 1 o'clock. So I'm a little tired. Besides that, it's been a good week.
Lee, how was your week?
I'm better now. I had a terrible sinus cold
Ooh.
last few days, but yeah, I feel much better now.
Lee has got Netflix and Prime now.
I do.
Dun, dun, dun.
I told him some shit to get on.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the 21st century.
Yeah.
He had to disconnect the gas in order to afford it because it's so high.
Yeah.
It's not the same way. I'm
It's
like,
not cheap anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's not. And every time every time I almost pushed the button to stop subscribing to Shudder, they put out some new movie, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe I'll just do it
Yeah.
next month.
Oh, yeah. It's only $5 a month.
It's only $5 a month.
It's not bad. Netflix is only $25. And hey, they pump out movies like I watched The Highwaymen. I mean, it's a pretty big scale film. It's got Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner in it. It's so strange because when I was a kid, it was like maybe 4 movies a month. Maybe they would open 2 movies a weekend.
Right, yeah.
And it was just, there wasn't much, and you waited and waited. They put a trailer out, you waited, and you're like, oh, I can't wait. And then you finally get to the theater. You go down to the Crown Cinema, and you'd see the film. Now it's like, I still haven't gotten used to, wait a minute, I see the trailer with Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner in it, and it's a period piece about the guys that hunted down Bonnie and Clyde. I see the trailer, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Is that Cinescope? Where's that going to be? And they're like, oh, on Netflix.
On your phone.
Yeah, on my phone. And I'm like, wait, so I don't have to go and spend $100, pay $20 for popcorn and a drink to see this one? This one I can just find 2 hours of my day and watch it on my sofa?
There you go.
It was, you know what? It was pretty good. It's a little slow. Did you see it?
I did not. The thing that was holding me back is director John Hancock, director of, what was that movie with Sandra Bullock?
The Blind Side.
The Blind Side, yeah. I just don't know if he was the right filmmaker.
Right.
Like he's a good director, but he's just not, I don't know. Seemed like an odd choice to pick to direct a crime film.
Well, see, that's the thing, and I don't want to give this away, so if anybody wants to watch this movie and didn't, I think it wasn't really a crime film. It was more about the 2 guys,
right,
the detectives, than it was about Bonnie and Clyde. In fact, you rarely saw Bonnie and Clyde. It was more about their friendship and how they actually tracked them down.
Yeah.
It was, I'm going to be honest, it was slow in a couple parts, and the end was, I guess because it's a real movie and that's how they did it.
Yeah.
It was pretty anticlimactic, I don't know if you guys remember, but they just kind of ambush them on a back road, and there's no shootout. There's no.
Well, the book that the Michael Mann film, Public Enemies, the book it's based on is not it's not about John Dillinger. It's just chronologically it goes through the entire crime wave of the 1930s. So it's like if one day Pretty Boy Floyd was doing this, and the next day Bonnie and Clyde did this, it'll tell you the dates. But the preface is by the guy that Giovanni Ribisi plays in Public Enemies. I cannot remember his name. He was a kidnapper. He would go kidnap rich people. And he was the only one of those guys that he lived. He lived to like 80. And basically what he says about Bonnie and Clyde is they were idiots. He's like, if you're an actual criminal, you know that if you kill a police officer, they're going to come kill you. He's like, that's how you know they were just amateurs. He's like, I never did anything like that. He's like, and I outlived all those people.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, they were just, you know, he's like, first of all, she didn't look like Faye Dunaway. But it's, they were, you know, it's more the myth of them than what they actually did.
Yeah.
So if you're saying it was more of a realistic movie, I could see it being very boring because they just robbed some banks and killed a few police officers and.
And
then
the
travel from house to house.
Yep, right. The Texas Rangers were on their way out. That whole establishment was on their way out, and they bringing in the state troopers instead. When all that started happening, this story was more about we're going to bring the Texas Rangers. Basically, hey, so now we've got all this new stuff coming out to track people and all these two-way radios, and they ended up bringing back the old guys, the Texas Rangers, who could just sniff and go neighbor, do the due diligence to find these guys, and that's what happened. And Thomas Newman, who he hasn't done a score, I can't remember, since probably Road to Perdition, or maybe one that I've listened to.
Yeah.
But that's the highlight is, Thomas Newman's score did Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. It's good, man. It's a period piece, and, it's Woody and Kevin Costner at their fight. Woody's really like shaping up to be one of my favorites.
Yeah,
like
he's really good.
Larry Flint. Like he went from Cheers.
Yeah,
and then White Man Can't Jump, which of course I love. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
and then Natural Born Killers was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's a like turn, and then but when he did, since he's done Larry Flint, like some of the stuff he's picked, like Rampart and. Just some of these gritty things that he's done, man. I don't know. He's just good.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's just good. I mean, he's probably the only redeeming quality of the Hunger Games films. Maybe. If there is.
Right.
Redeeming quality of the Hunger Games films.
Digging.
Yeah. Yeah. So I watched that, and then the other one was, of course, Dumbo. And, we had to go see Dumbo. It was good. It's the same problem with every Tim Burton film. It looks and sounds fantastic. The acting is...
right.
So this is one of those movies where my daughter said, I don't want to go. Peyton said, I don't want to go because I don't want to cry and I don't want to be emotional. And I was like, well, that's why you go to movies. But guess what? That was the problem with the movie, is they just didn't get it quite dramatic, and it could have been like a sob fest from the start to finish because mom's dead, and
right?
The Dumbo's taken from his mom, and all this stuff, and these kids could have been an absolute hot mess, which could have kind of like that one film, Series of Unfortunate Events, where you just really with Jim Carrey, where you really feel bad for those kids, man. You're really sad for them. You're just the two. Actor and actresses, Nico Parker and Finley Robbins. Like a Tim Burton movie, he just doesn't direct actors very well.
Yeah.
So I never really believed him, and they were never really sad, and so therefore the melodrama that could have been, and the sob fest that could have been, and the great stuff that could have been in that movie fell short.
Let me ask you a question: were the crows in it?
The crows were not.
Well, the crows were not in it. I didn't think they would be, but you never know.
No, the crows were not.
Yeah, I'm sure that was probably the first note. Yeah. They were like on the script, no crows. Yeah. Walt's dead.
It sounded great. DeVito was fantastic. Keaton was fantastic. The children, not so much.
Right.
Colin Farrell was Colin Farrell, but. I think my biggest, I was entertained. I loved it. It looked great. It sounded great. But I wanted not to cry, but I wanted to just be
feel something.
Yes. Yeah. And it just didn't happen. And I think that's, the reviews is funny. Not that reviews matter on this show, but everybody kind of said the same thing. Like the heart was not there. It's kind of the same as all Tim Burton's movies. Yeah. It's like the same thing is always missing.
It's kind of synonymous with
yes,
missing that kind of heart that we
Where
talk
Paul
about.
Thomas Anderson pulls it out of his actors and he finds ways to do it.
Right.
Tim Burton just can't do
Well,
it.
he camouflages it with the way that his movies look.
Right.
You know, to where it's almost like you're more invested in the look and the feel of his movies than what's actually happening in these movies and how they're told. I mean, some of them are worse than others. This one sounds like it's, you know, kind of on the lower level of his style of movies. But even a movie that I would say probably has the most heart, like Edward
Hands.
Hands.
Where did you think the scissors were?
It was going to be Scissor Fingers, but that didn't come out right. To me, that of all of his movies definitely has the most heart.
Right.
But it still has that same look. And somewhere between that and a lot of these other movies he's made, he's lost that kind of, I don't know, relatability maybe. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna. I think the movie is as much heart as Ed Wood, because that's the movie I think he was the most connected to.
yeah, okay.
Because really, if you think about, like, you know, Ed Wood met his favorite actor, Bela Lugosi, and he died. And Tim Burton made his favorite actor, Vincent Price, and he died. Like, their lives were very similar. And the fact that, you know, Tim Burton got fired as an animator from Disney, had he not got hired to direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure, his career could have went completely differently.
Right.
So I think he was more connected to that movie. I think Edward Scissorhands that's his most mainstream accessible movie.
Right.
Like, kids can watch that. Like, kids aren't just going to watch Ed Wood.
No,
You know?
not appreciate it. For
Right.
sure.
But I think that I think since then, like, has he done anything in the last 20 years that wasn't an adaptation or a remake since Planet of the Apes?
I don't think so.
Like, it's just and maybe he just doesn't give a shit.
Frankenweenie was
That's
was
true.
an
But that was a
adaptation
remake of a short he made, or an
Right.
adaptation. But if Frankenweenie's the thing that he made that you could tell he did give a shit about, you know, but everything else.
And like you said, Ed Wood, you could tell how
Corpse's
much he
Bride was
loved it.
fantastic too, and it had heart. But
Right.
that's animation.
Right.
It's different. It's not putting actors. It's not putting two. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one. You know, these two kids. Their mother. They start the movie so well, and I don't want to give anything away. Well, unless you've seen it or you know the story. Dad comes back missing an arm from the army to find. You know, and he knew his wife had died, had gotten sick and died, and the kids have been being taken care of by the traveling circus that they worked on. That's huge material, and never once until the end does we have a moment with that daughter who's basically the lead, who's the one that's pushing, you know, Dumbo. We got to go do this for Dumbo and this and this and this. She's never once has a moment where she misses her mom, you know, or anything. She carries around a necklace, but I just don't believe her. And I'm just like, there's been movies where, you know, you watch these kids on screen and you tear your heart out for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of what they're going through, and that's what I wanted to see. And of course, again, I never saw it. And you know, I look back and I was like, Peyton, you probably would have enjoyed that movie because we never. Yeah. There was only one moment when they put mom in the wagon and take her away, where they sit on Dumbo, where you're kind of like, but that's it,
Right?
And that's done.
Yeah, but that's just a recreation of the animated movie.
And they have him painted up, kind of like in the animated movie.
Yeah.
And everybody's laughing at him. That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Just because he's so realistic, he looks so realistic, but
right.
There's just no heart in it. So there you go. I still love it. It's Tim Burton. It looked great. Michael Keaton was fantastic.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito. It looked like a Tim Burton film, and it was great.
There you go.
If you didn't want to have any emotions, if you just wanted to be visually stimulated, you got it.
Yeah. What'd you watch, Doug?
I watched a couple movies. I watched a movie by the name of The Interview. It's an Australian movie from 1998 starring Hugo Weaving. Starts off, he's asleep in his chair in like this kind of rundown apartment. These cops bust in and he's like, what's going on? He pees himself. Like he's legitimately frightened. And the cops won't really tell him anything. They take him down and begin interviewing him. And initially they say that it's something about a stolen vehicle. And he's like, I don't understand why you guys came into my house and did all this. But on the back end of it, there's something called the Ethics Committee. And they're watching these two cops who apparently, they're not necessarily dirty, but they kind of bend the rules, so to speak. and they're almost like internal affairs, and they're watching them give this interview. And as the interview goes, Weaving's character starts to open up about all these different crazy crimes, and he's talking like he's the guy that's done all these things. And meanwhile, this ethics committee is watching how these police are leaning on him and kind of talking him into these answers. And throughout the movie, you don't know if he's guilty or not. You know, I'm not going to spoil the end, but that's kind of the storyline of the movie. It reminds me of a movie from '97 called Deceiver with Tim Roth and Chris Penn in it. Same kind of deal, Usual Suspects kind of deal, where it's like an interrogation is kind of what the movie's all about. You know, I'd heard a great deal about this movie. I wasn't really blown away by it. It has a really strange kind of ending, and I don't think I would recommend it to anybody, to be quite honest with you. It just the way that they do this whole movie, and I guess it is kind of relevant today. You know, with the PCality of everything and how everybody has to watch how they act and watch what they say, because ultimately that's what this movie is all about, is how these police officers deal with this guy. And then I watched a couple movies on Netflix. I watched Polar from 2019. Mads Mikkelsen. It's a movie about a group of these hitmen, and apparently, you know, when you get in with this group, they want you to retire at 50, and you're promised this massive pension. And Mikkelsen's character, known as the Black Kaiser, is like the baddest of the badasses of this group, you know. And he turns 50, and he's looking to retire and get all this money. And the head of the syndicate sends basically all the other assassins that are under his tutelage to come and try and kill him for whatever the reward is. I'm not even sure what it was. And it's based off of like a web comic, I believe.
Yep.
Dead Mouse, the DJ did the soundtrack for it. It's over the top as fuck, man. Yeah. But if you just want to see some crazy ass action film that has some lighthearted moments, it's got some humor to it, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. It's not a super long movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, It's just to shoot 'em up, you know, whatever. And then I watched a movie.
That sex scene about an hour in is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, there's some parts.
Oh, yeah.
I watched another movie from 2017. It's another Netflix movie. It's I believe the title is Aramentari, The Blacksmith and the Devil. It's,
produced by the guy who did Witch and the Bitch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's another Basque folklore tale about this orphan girl in this small town. There's this blacksmith, and the rumor is that this blacksmith had made a deal with the devil, and that they kind of live in this house out in the woods, you know. And this little girl goes to this house. She's out like having a tea party and gets lost in the woods and ends up getting inside of this guy's house while the blacksmith is not there. And she finds this little boy in a cage and releases him. Well, when she releases him, it's not a boy, it's this demon that this blacksmith is held there for some kind of... I really didn't understand how or the why, but somehow by holding this demon, the devil can't come to collect his soul, or what have you. It's got some really silly parts.
Yeah.
But it's also really horrific in some parts too. Some of the parts where they actually end up in hell is killer.
Yeah.
It's something that while I'm watching it, I thought it would be more fitting as like a play. It would be a cool ass play.
Right.
I think, and I'm sure it probably is somewhere else. But Aramentari, The Blacksmith and the Devil in Spanish, it's on Netflix. If you like something a little off the beaten path, man, that's you know, foreign, but that's still really well done. It's a completely unique story. I highly recommend this. Like I say, it's got some silly parts to it, but ultimately, you know, it's got some meat to it.
It's like when we watched Witch and the Bitch, and there'd be something extremely violent, and then just the goofiest shit imaginable.
Now, it's not quite on the level, funny level of Witch and the Bitch, but still, it was a cool story, man. I really enjoyed it. And like I say, I think it would make an excellent play.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Is that all you watched?
That's it.
All right. Awesome. I watched a couple things on Prime.
Okay.
Watched a movie from...
Get your money's worth.
No doubt.
Here we go.
Got from 1973 with Burt Reynolds called Seamus, where he plays a private detective.
Okay.
And it starts out these two people in bed having sex in like this New York hotel room.
What is it with all these movies with having sex
And
this week?
the skylight busts open, and there's two guys in flame retardant suits who then light the bed on fire with flamethrowers. And I was like, okay, movie starts with the flamethrower assassination. I'm in. I'm in.
For sure.
And then it cuts to Burt Reynolds' office, and he has like a twin mattress sitting on top of a pool table. And he's just the like low rentest private detective ever. Like, you know, like if you went and got Humphrey Bogart's character and he was out of town, you would have to go get this guy. Yeah. Like, just, you know, basically, yeah. He has an office, but he basically lives at this pool hall, you know. And this rich guy, when these people were killed with the flamethrowers, these diamonds were stolen. And this rich sort of Howard Hughes type millionaire wants them back, and Burt Reynolds goes to his house. And the guy has like industrial strength refrigerators in his office. Like the room is like 30 degrees. And just a very odd movie, you know, like pre-Superstar Burt. You know, right. And just a very you know, kind of offbeat detective movie, very funny, and just like every woman who sees Burt in the movie wants to have sex with him, and he either has sex with them or makes an appointment to come back at some later date. You know, they just throw themselves at him, right? You know, and like I said, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's like a movie we talked about a couple weeks ago, Brandon. It's in full frame. It's not in widescreen, and the print looks okay, but it's a very entertaining movie.
Cool.
And I watched another detective movie from South Korea, a recent movie called The Outlaws. Which, do you remember the guy in Train to Busan, the big muscly guy?
Yes.
He is
the best part.
He's the best part of the movie. And as soon as that movie came out, he became one of the biggest stars in South Korea. Rightfully so. Mao Don Sok is his name. Apparently his English language name is going to be Don Lee, which sounds like a guy in Tampa who runs a strip mall, but whatever. I'm not sure if he chose that name or if it was chosen for him.
Right.
But he plays this cop in Seoul, South Korea, who is just he's a big guy, and like he doesn't really, you know, you have these movies like, you know, Martin Riggs and Lethal Weapon. He's not really that type of cop. He just likes to do things as easily as possible. Like there's one where he's chasing a guy, and he's a huge guy, but his knees suck, and so he's like chasing this guy, and he just stops for a minute, kind of catches his breath, like fuck my knees, and then he cuts through an alleyway and just shoulder checks this guy into unconsciousness. And there's a scene where he's interrogating the guy, and the guy just won't talk. He's like a gang member, and they're like, take him to the truth room, and you know how like in conference rooms will have those partitions you can pull out of the wall. They have one of those. They pull it shut, and they put a motorcycle helmet on him. And then Don Lee just proceeds to punch the motorcycle helmet for like 5 minutes, and you don't see it. You just hear this guy screaming in agony, like "Oh my God!" just punching over it. And when it comes out, he takes off the helmet. This guy just confesses the world. But the weird thing is how
he's like Samuel Hung, kind of.
Sort of, yes.
Have you ever seen Samuel Hung?
Yeah.
All his stuff is it's like Jackie Chan, very light.
But he's more
serious, but light.
Yeah, but the villains are super serious. Like it starts with the bad guy breaking this guy's hands with a sledgehammer. Basically, this kind of lower level gang has
that just sounds terrible.
Come in, and this guy from a higher level gang owes them like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they basically kidnap him to use that to get a meeting with the top gang in Seoul, and then just massacre all those guys to sort of put themselves on top. And they're just a much more vicious gang than he's used to. And like you said, he's sort of almost like an 80s Hong Kong action hero. He's just sort of goofy and light, but the villains are the opposite. Nice. And I enjoyed it. And like I said, you can watch it if you have Prime. You can watch it. It's called The Outlaws. Don Lee, he's great in it. That guy is. You can, like I said, when you saw Train to Busan, just. And I always like Burt in the 70s. Dude's just got charisma, you know. Well, the thing you can't manufacture,
right? Yeah, and that's why he stands out. I mean, right when you said that, you didn't even have to have his name.
Yep.
You didn't have to describe him.
He's the best part of the movie.
The big guy in Train, and I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, he's the best part.
And now he's got like 5 movies out that he's the star of.
Nice.
But the only thing I watched besides that is I watched the pilot to Warrior.
Yes, that's right.
It's based on the idea that Bruce Lee came up with. I don't know if it's his original pitch for what became Kung Fu, or if it was just a different idea.
Is that Prime or Showtime?
It was on Cinemax.
Oh, okay.
But I did the 7-day free preview for the Cinemax channel on Prime.
Nice.
And it's a really good pilot. It really is. Yeah, it starts off, 1879. San Francisco, hundreds of Chinese immigrants getting off this boat, and the guy who's the main character, his grandfather was like a American missionary who was in China, so he can speak American English,
Right.
and you see this immigration official beating this like teenage Chinese boy, and in English he's like, I don't think you should do that, and some couple immigration cops come up to him, and they're like, do you think you could take, and the big Irish from the background is like, do you think you could take me on? And the Chinese guy just quickly knocks out the other two and says, that's not the question. The question is, do you want to find out? And immediately he's taken from there to the head of the local triad, and is basically, you find out that he's there to find his sister. And there's all these, you have the various gangs in Chinatown. You have the Irish immigrants who resent the Chinese for coming there taking their jobs. You have the politicians, the mayor of San Francisco, who trying to basically keep everything together. Because it was a big city at that time, but it was only, it was 70,000 people. Like compared to like San Francisco or Chicago, it was nothing. So it was sort of like the beginnings of a big city.
Right.
And they're basically trying to keep the city together. And like for a pilot, it's awesome. It has Joe Tassom, the guy who was the hero of The Night Comes For Us and in the Raid movies. He's basically, he works for the opposing gangs that this guy's a part of. And I think it's going to be a cool show.
Yeah, the trailer looked great.
Written and produced by Jonathan Trooper, the guy who created Banshee and Corey, that show I talked about a few months ago. Mm-hmm. He's like a real deal genre writer.
Right.
He's not, I've never seen anything that was sort of like, I guess it's secretly a drama, The Man Who Killed Hitler and the Duke. No, everything he writes is 100% just action stuff.
Nice.
And I really enjoyed it. I'll check out the second episode.
Nice.
But that's all I watched.
Okay. Well, that was a good show, guys. We all watched 5 movies. I have 2 that I watched I'm not even going to talk about. So that's good. Great. Well, that means, that brings us to our new block.
Yep.
The very unique new block. Would you like to introduce this genre, Mr. Genre?
I would. We're actually going to do, for the next 3 weeks, we're going to do Giallo movies. And if you don't know what these are, a lot of people listen to the show probably do, because I can't imagine you would listen to a show like this and not like these type of movies. But they are sort of the precursor.
I run this show, and I had no idea about these movies.
Yeah, but you went and saw Dumbo, so whatever.
Your opinion, shit. Sorry.
Anyway.
Touche. Carry on, mate.
And you thought it was going to be good.
Oh,
anyway. I'm just messing with you.
It's like the first. It's like cocaine.
I understand.
You do one line,
Yeah.
that first line, and it's so good.
Hey, listen.
And you try so hard every time you do it again after that to have it feel like that first one, and it never does. And that is a
I'm the same way with
movie.
James Bond movies. There could be 3 shitty ones in a row, but that next one, I'm like, it could be good. So I'm the same way. But
Anyway, we're on track.
right.
I digress.
I digress. But anyway, these movies were, I guess you say they're what came before slasher movies. Mm-hmm. And really, they go back, they're Italian movies, but they really go back to Germany in the 30s and 40s, because most of the original novels were written by a guy named Edgar Wallace, who now is most known for writing the original script for King Kong. But in the 30s and 40s, he was basically as big as Agatha Christie. He was huge in Europe. And after World War II, they started making movies in Germany based on his novels called Criminale movies. And they were huge in Italy. So in the 60s, they decided to try to duplicate it. And in Italy, the books, when they published the books there, the edge of the covers were always yellow. So they called them Giallo books, which is Giallo is Italian for yellow. But as they started adapting them, they just more basically started focusing on the murder plots. And throughout the 60s, you had movies like, the Girl Who Knew Too Much and, Blood and Black Lace. And they were not really that popular. Really until 1970 when Dario Argento made The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. And that was there were Giallos before that, but that was the one. It was a huge hit. Got released in America, and basically Italians at that time, there were 2 Italian movie industries. You had Fellini and all those guys who made art films, and basically everything else was just ripoffs. Like, there were no Italian westerns until Fistful of Dollars, and then that was a hit. And then every scumbag in Italy started producing a western. And then that would go on for 4 or 5 years till the end of the 60s. Then Bird with the Crystal Plumage came out. And then you just had 1,000 Giallos, you know. And as we're going to find over the next 3 weeks, the quality is not always the same.
No, it is not.
You know, I've seen ones that are just amazing. They just look great. And then you watch another one by the same director, and it's just like, was he blindfolded when he watched this? Like, when he made this? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess it kind of depends on the plot and the
budget.
The budget.
Budget's probably
what was
big.
going on with the director at the time,
Yeah.
you know, and like, was he interested? But like, some of them are great, some of them are terrible, but there's a lot of them, and we're going to talk about them.
That's right.
And the movie we're going to talk about tonight is not one of the first, but it was for 73, so it's in, I guess, in the first wave, you'd say. And it's Torso, directed by Sergio Martino. And
I have to have you.
and he was a big, like, Italian horror movie director. And this movie is, like a lot of them, it has to do with sex and violence. That's pretty much it, you know. They all, I won't say they all, but 90% of them, it's a guy in a coat, and like a raincoat cinched around the with black leather gloves. Sometimes a mask, sometimes not. That's sort of, you know, changes from movie to movie. But they all, and a lot of times they involve models, college students, musicians. The hero in a Giallo is almost never a cop. I don't think I've ever seen one where the main character's a cop. You know, and I guess that's sort of what they cribbed from Hitchcock, was a normal person in an extraordinary circumstance.
Right.
And this movie's... Since you want, would you like to explain the plot? I want, because I did not pick these movies. I gave Doug a list of Giallos.
But yeah, actually, let's break that down.
Okay.
Let's break that down.
Break it down.
This wasn't something that... This was actually funny that we're doing this block because it was a complete miscommunication. I stumbled across, during some of my research for this movie, or for this podcast, I found a picture. And I was just being a guy, a funny guy.
It was a poster, strip nude for your killer.
That's right.
Giallo, yes.
Yes, said strip nude for your killer, and it's got him, and he's got the killer, and he's got gloves on and a knife, and her shirt, and she's laying out on a bed, and her bare breasts are exposed. So I sent this to them, and I said, we should do more movies like this. And the next thing you know,
Your wish is my command.
So here's the problem: that you can't infer. There's no nuance in text.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be a sarcasm font, an anger font. Because that way, Garrick sends this thing, and I'm just like, I know all about those movies. We can do that for sure. And Doug's like, that sounds awesome. And so I send Doug a list of movies. I said, well, these are all on Prime. So everybody can watch these. So Doug, you pick 3. Because I didn't want to be like, I know about this. We're watching these. Because, you know, that happens a lot. And
Was this the one that you had not seen?
yes,
before?
I've never seen Torso.
You had never seen Torso.
oh, we should have saved that one for the last.
In the early
then.
2000s, about 2002, I stumbled upon some Italian horror movie and then spent the next year watching every Italian horror movie I could find.
Right.
I went from Giallos to zombie movies to
Was
cannibal
this during
movies.
puberty? Or you-
No, I was in my early 20s.
Oh, okay.
No, I was like 20 years old. And that was at the time, like, when DVDs first came out. There
Oh,
were just a
yeah.
lot of movies that you could never see on DVD.
So I'll try and give you a plot line.
Yeah, tell me what you think it's about.
There's a university somewhere.
Awesome. Full of hot models.
Let me stop you right there. Next time you send a joke text, just end it with JK if you don't actually want to do the movie. Then I'll know you don't want to do it. But go ahead, Doug.
It's at a college somewhere.
Full of hot women.
Full of hot ass, yes. Agreed.
I mean, hot
And,
Italian women.
There's a little group of these women that kind of run around together. And a girl that they know and her boyfriend disappear, and they're found mutilated, right? So 4 of these girls decide that they're going to go up the country and go stay in this chateau that one of the girls' families...
Yeah, her uncle owns.
Her uncle owns.
Yeah.
It's in this small village, and there's a ton of nudity.
Yeah.
And
Is that a part of the plot?
Yeah,
yes,
it actually is.
yes, for sure it is. There were times where I started to get up and walk out of the room, and then
Like, well, wait a minute.
well, now wait a minute, she's taking that off.
I haven't seen her naked yet.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that exactly.
Yeah.
This movie could have also been renamed the Ascot murders. That would have been fitting.
Yep.
There are some very odd scenes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where they're in this dilapidated sex hippie dungeon. That was the craziest thing ever.
But the upskirt shots were fantastic, and they were probably state of the art then. But that was like something you'd never done, is do the upskirt where they're
There were a lot of really cool, uniquely beautiful shots, and I found this with every one of these types of movies that I've watched. Fulci movies, Argento movies, the same thing, man. The color, the lighting, and the use of the camera, they all are interconnected. The way that these movies
during that hippie orgy where those guys were, they had that shot where they're both like suppling the woman's breast. I was waiting for Nick Cage to come through with his big chainsaw from Mandy and start cutting something.
And then 5 minutes after that, there's a gigantic motorcycle stunt for no discernible reason. Guy just riding a cycle, and his front tire hits the mud, and he does this terrible looking, like it looks so painful.
Looked like it hurt.
Like he goes over the handlebars and just slams into the ground, and they're like, well, that happened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of randomness in Italian genre movies in general. Like the sex hippie dungeon. For some reason, like everybody's... At this point, there have been like 3 murders.
Right.
And they're super worried about it. But in Giallo's, nobody's that concerned. Like the cops are all like super laid back. They're like, oh, your sister got murdered, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And they're eating a sandwich and stuff. It's like, I would be like so concerned.
Yeah.
And of course, they go to a orgy/folk music concert in the middle of an abandoned factory, and surprise, somebody gets murdered. But one thing I will give this movie credit for: it has like 6 red herrings. Like, is it the teacher? Is it the boyfriend?
Right.
Is it the 2 guys on the motorcycle? Is it the uncle? Because at one point she's talking to the uncle when she's at the chateau. She's like, "You sound like you're in the next room." And I was like, "Damn, is it the uncle?"
Yeah.
Well, and how creepy was it when she's in her bath towel and he's out fucking her? I thought, oh, come on, dude.
Yeah,
geez.
and so there is a lot of moving for a movie that's this loose. It has a lot of plot.
Yeah.
Which a lot of them don't. There's a scene at the end where the final girl, to use the slasher movie term, she's trapped in a room, the door's been locked, and she's trying to not make noise and get out. And it's a really well done sequence.
Yeah.
Like how she's the killer's in the house and she's trying to get out of the room, and then the door's locked from the outside. And I thought that was actually expertly well done.
Yeah, me too.
I think that, and it's funny, and this is probably a preference.
Yeah.
But I really liked the end. They showed the POV, and you couldn't really see the fighting. It's going through that barn, but you can hear in there that voice, the audio that they used. It's like, and it sounded real, and it sounded like these guys were really flailing.
Yeah.
But you couldn't see. It's not Hollywood at all, where you, the old Batman, where like Marvel, where they show every punch.
Right.
Same with the scene when the one girl wakes up and comes downstairs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same kind of deal.
She doesn't realize everybody's been murdered.
It's inferred violence. It's like you go down there and she just sees all of her friends instead of you actually
that one shot where you just see the feet coming out of the hall. It's those little things, the implied violence that was so good.
And the guy who sold the killer his scarves.
What was that?
Why was he trying to rip? He knows the guy's a murderer. Why try to rip him off? Why would you extort a murderer?
That was a great scene, though, when the red herring that I knew, I mean, just from the way they did the red herring thing in this movie, because it was so long ago, might have been new, but we've seen so many. Now you kind of go, okay, well, it's not him because he's too creepy. Well, but it was a great scene when she opened the door and he's standing there and he's screaming, and the scarf's right there, and they start screaming,
and the killer lets it go.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's not him.
That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, that was a killer scene.
That is something that's in a lot of Giallos, is the hidden clue. Like, it's always someone's like, I think I sort of saw the murder, but I didn't really see his face. So the killer always knows who the hero is, but the hero never knows who the killer is.
That's right.
Or they've forgotten it, or they got hit in the head or something. It's always, I mean, these movies are very similar, but the execution, the execution is what matters.
Yeah.
And the execution of this one is 70% great. 30%, what the hell is happening?
I understand why filmmakers look back on this movie and love it.
Oh, yeah. The opening scene, and I don't mean to interrupt, but the opening scene, you see the music starts, and you see silk.
Yeah.
and you just see a little bit of the highlight of these. What you don't even know what they are at this moment in time. Then you see the silk kind of move, and as it's, I mean, this is going to sound really, kind of douchebaggery, but as it falls off her breast, like it's a great shot, and it's a great scene, and I'm like, I'm sold. That's the first thing you see.
Yeah. Opens with an orgy,
and then
for
she's
sure.
straddling a guy, and you see his hand on her, and it's very sensual. I don't really know what's going on with all that autofocus. Is that a threesome happening?
Yeah, it's a threesome.
Okay, because I couldn't tell, but that's what I like. Right. I think that's why I liked it, because I really couldn't tell. Okay. I really wanted to see it.
And that does come back into play.
Yeah, at this moment in the podcast, if you haven't seen the movie, stop now, because I'm going to reveal the ending. Because there's no way we can talk about it without.
Yeah.
Okay, the killer is... Okay, it's the teacher. And that is something that comes into Giallos a lot, is that of sexual repression. They're raised in this very Catholic country. A lot of them are raised by their mothers, and they just... There's a lot of thing about, like, they want to have sex with women, but at the same time they hate women, And this teacher, like, the origin of him being a murderer is so random. Like, his little brother stole a little girl's baby doll and put it on a cliff so she would play doctor with him and pull down her panties. But then when he went to go get the doll, he fell off the cliff and died. And for that reason, he hates women and jabs their eyes out when he has sex with them, and then cuts them up and strangles them with a scarf. It's just... That makes no sense. This is, I mean... But then again, in this exaggerated world, it's what it does. Because everything's so cool looking.
Right.
And it's, like I said, the cops are just whatever.
The one in the woods was the best, too.
Oh, yeah, the fog. Oh, it looks amazing.
And then when he cuts...
Yeah.
If you Google torso for images, of course, since we have to do that for our marketing purposes, there's one great, fan art where he drew, it looks comic-y, where the knife is still going through her skull. And I'm like, dude, that's rad. And I wanted to use it, but that one's...
Exactly.
That one, I'm sure somebody...
That's how you get thrown in Facebook jail.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want to get thrown in Facebook jail.
Yeah.
If
you've never seen it, it's on Prime. If you've never seen a Giallo and this sounds cool, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, hippie orgies. Upskirt angles.
Yep.
Whodunits.
Yep. Strangling with scarves.
It's raw filmmaking.
It's very raw.
Finest, though. And, I can appreciate any of that. Like upskirts been around even in the days where I shot porn.
Right.
That's always a big thing. But this was the 70s.
Yeah.
And for some odd reason, when he did that shot, I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You just never saw that.
And now the movie might seem sexist, but in 1973 it was a very liberal thing.
Oh yeah, that's when
it was like women were they're showing their bodies. It didn't matter.
It's before the AIDS crisis,
right? Exactly.
In the 80s, it was free sex. It was right after the Doors.
And if a woman comes on screen in this movie, she takes her clothes off. I don't think there's any women here that don't get naked. And it's just this is like...
It sounded like my dorm room in college.
Right.
And then I woke up. All right, so okay. Yeah. Well, as long as there was liquor in the room, that was I had a 50-50 shot. Oh, it's fine.
Nice.
All right. So with all that said, did you like the movie?
I did. I did.
I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it either.
But I just can't see a scenario where I would ever want to watch it again.
Right.
Although I will say this, because of the one of watching this one, I saw a couple of other ones that are on Prime that I am going to check out to talk about next week.
See, that's how they get you.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting slowly sucked in. Because
I've got a list of them.
I might not have liked this story, but I love the style, the stylization of it. So if I can find one with a story that I like better, you might find a hidden gem. Now I don't want to go working on watching 20 or 25 different movies to find this, but I'm going to give a couple. A couple more of these Giallos a try.
Right. Yeah, we need to hurry up though, because with Netflix, you have different profiles. You can make up to 5 different profiles. And Daddy's got his own profile, and it doesn't matter. Well, Prime doesn't have that. So now, when my wife and my kids go on to watch Prime, they're going to get that, because you watch Torso, and I'm going to have 70s porn, just lined up in 2 of those columns.
You might like Don't Torture a Duckling.
Yes.
Which your children should never watch.
Sleepaway Murders
Yeah.
2 or something.
There's a scene in, we're not doing Don't Torture Duckling. There's literally a scene in Don't Torture Duckling where Barbara Boucher, who was maybe the most beautiful woman of the 70s, she literally tries to seduce like an 8-year-old boy. And I have no idea why that scene's in the movie. Like, he walks upstairs and she's just there sitting in like a beanbag chair.
Oh, that would never pass now.
And she's like, why don't you come over here? And I was just like, what's happening?
Oh my gosh.
It's just and that movie is also on Prime.
Yeah, I saw them.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got I've got a huge list of them.
If you come home and your son's watching Don't Torture Duckling, you might want to shut it off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeesh.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
I've seen
I
enough.
don't want to see it again.
I've seen enough, and I know that they evolve over the next. This is 73. Movies from the late 60s on to, late 80s. I'm interested to see, kind of how the evolution goes, and I'll probably check one from this time period against this one, and then what are we doing next week?
The New York Ripper.
The New York Ripper.
Yes.
Right. And then I'll try and find something that's around that time period to have something to kind of contrast to compare with. So
yeah,
we'll see where it goes. I mean, not my favorite, but for people who appreciate camera work, which I do. I'm not a filmmaker, but I appreciate if you a unique, like a cool shot. I'm like, well played.
No, it's not. It's like we're talking about Tim Burton. It's not style over substance. The style is the substance.
Yes,
that's. I mean, these movies are it's all about how cool they look.
Right. Like Inferno that I did, which I guess you would consider.
I consider it just a horror. Like a lot of people consider those Giallos. I don't. Those are more just supernatural horror movies.
It's close enough. I mean, and the look and the feel and the camera work is all really similar.
Oh yeah.
So if you like that kind of technical thing, in your movies, then give them a shot. I mean, and I guarantee you're not going to see two alike. I mean, they're very unique. It looks to me like I'm hoping so.
Right.
Even though the killer may always look the same.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they'll have stockings on their head or leather gloves on.
Leather shoes, leather gloves.
Yep.
A
straight razor.
Yeah. What was up with the mute? What was that about?
The mute?
Yeah. Remember he runs up and he's...
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck was that about?
You have to embrace the randomness. You
know.
can't worry about why things happen in Italian movies.
Well, when something like that started, I'm like, oh shit! Now I got to wait 5 minutes to get back to the meat of the story.
No, he just disappears. Yeah, like I know it's always like in Don't Torture Duckling, Barbara Boucher trying to seduce a child. It's just in the movie, and it never comes up.
There is some randomness in these movies, and if you can accept that and just move along with it, then
Oh, absolutely. Well, when. That one scene, I can't remember how it ends, but they cut to that beautiful African-American woman in the mirror.
Yeah.
Completely bare-breasted. And then they kind of move the camera, and you look into the mirror, and in the background, you see the other girl in the bed. You're just like, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I know where this is.
Here we go.
Here we go.
What is there? Movies that were made for 14-year-olds that most 14-year-olds will never get to watch.
Right.
Like, there's like the humor... The story, it's all for like teenage boys.
Yeah.
But they should probably all be watched by adults. It's weird.
There you go. So,
I say rent it. Because if we're talking about Giallos, I think this is a good one. And I'm going to say, if you're interested in checking out the genre, this is not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
If this seems like something that maybe you've watched when you were younger, or you've maybe seen a movie here and there, this is one. It's okay. It's not. I don't think any of these movies are what I would ever consider great.
Right.
But for the genre, I think this one was pretty well done.
I'm the same way. If you're looking for that kind of film,
see, no one would watch this movie that isn't. They would watch 5 minutes of it and turn it off if they weren't looking. I can't imagine anybody who hates horror movies being like, very interesting. That would never happen.
No, they may only need 30 seconds.
That's true.
The first 30 seconds of this movie is not bad.
Yeah.
If they would have cut the camera parts, stopped cutting back to the camera, if they would just let it sit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, they had to cut because...
Well, I know, but I'm saying for spank material, you want to kind of sit on it. Yeah, just sit on it. All that annoying.
Do you
like,
now?
All that annoying.
Garrick, let me explain something. There's something called the internet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so Giallo.
Yeah.
Here we
Toes
go.
are in the Giallo.
Yep.
Toes are in the
Giallo
jello.
End.
Nice.
We're in the Giallo End for sure.
There's the title of the show,
Yeah.
The Giallo End.
That's it.
All right, well, we got, hey, so I saw the first image. You got to be kidding me. A new Terminator film.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Produced by Cameron, though.
The Dark Fate.
Yep.
I'm over it.
I am too, man. I know you're not.
I didn't see the last one, though. Like, that was literally like, I'll wait to see I see the trailer before I like the Dark Genesis, I think it was. Terminator I didn't see that.
I watched I tried to watch the one with the female Terminator. It was like the third one.
Yeah, T3, yeah. Yeah.
I never made it to the end.
Right.
And then I remember the one with Christian Bale.
Right.
And I actually liked. I remember enjoying that one.
It's got.
Was it Salvation?
Yes, Terminator Salvation.
right.
It's got cool parts in it.
That's the one that'll go down in infamy because he flipped out on that dude.
It'll be all right.
I don't care less.
Yeah.
I'm sure the guy.
Everybody has. I mean, like that's what I was saying. Like I've said stuff just unforgivable
Oh yeah.
when I've lost my temper.
Yeah.
I don't judge people for like he had a bad day. There just wasn't but camera at me when I did it.
Yeah. And I don't remember what the latest one after Salvation was. What was it?
It was Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I just wish that they would just leave it out. If you want to make something sci-fi, I mean, there's other ways of doing it. Just stop using Terminator.
Right.
You know, I would rather, just because I think I love the first one so much, I just wish they'd leave it out.
Yeah.
Just leave it be, man.
But they won't.
Like Netflix.
can't.
Yes, they can't because it makes money.
Yeah.
In 10 years, they're gonna remake it. It'll be Terminator 1 all over again.
Right.
Yeah, with new people.
Yep.
And we'll just do it all over again.
Yep,
All
for
over
sure.
again. Yep.
But I'll wait to see how the trailer for this one looks. I'm not going to be like, I'll never watch it. Because I might not, though.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Speaking of remakes, with the big news over at MGM.
Yep. The Russo brothers are basically being given free reign over the MGM library to just remake whatever movie they want.
That's because they did the Avengers. Is that all? Is that the reason?
Yeah, because their movies make $1 billion each.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good reason.
Why would they redo the Thomas Crown Affair?
Same reason they're going to do.
Well, they've already done it once.
The
What
Rats
do you
and
mean?
Them, but the Rats and Them, like,
Yeah.
I could do the Rats and Them because it's that story is much darker
Right.
than the Secret of Them cartoon.
Oh, yes.
So that one's good, but the Thomas Crown Affair, we've seen it done twice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Steve McQueen did it the first time.
Right.
Why do we? Steve McQueen did it the first time.
Yeah.
End of story.
Same reason there's going to be a new Terminator movie. The only reason any movie is ever made is for money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you don't remake them for the art.
And I hate it. I you know, some remakes I'm okay with.
right.
But about 90% of them,
Yeah, but about 90% of movies are garbage.
well,
So,
but
I mean-
90% of remakes truly are.
Yeah, but-
you know, and you get out of there and you're like, why?
Yeah.
You know, I would have rather have paid money to watch you come up with something original than to have sat here and watched you gurgle up this fucking regurgitation of something that I love, and
I agree.
and you didn't improve upon it. You fucking ruined it.
Right.
Oh yeah. But it made $1 billion.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, why it didn't even make $1 billion? As long as it makes, if it's
That's
the
a good opening weekend.
If the budget's $10 million and they make 30, then well,
Yeah.
you're fine. It's all that matters. It's all
Right.
money.
And there's a lot of other movies in that catalog other than those two that you mentioned.
Well, they'll remake
they'll-
Rocky. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, I know. Why?
I mean, really.
Yeah.
What
And
else
they will.
They will. Leaving Las Vegas. That's in that. They'll do that one too.
With a happy ending.
Yeah, exactly. He'll live. He'll get help.
He'll go to AA.
The hooker will
they'll
find
get
Jesus.
married at the end.
Yeah, hooker will find
Yeah.
Jesus, get him in rehab, and he'll buy a casino, and they'll live happily ever after. That's the new one, right?
Sure.
God, I hope not.
Yeah. That's about right. And Ashton Kutcher will play Nicolas Cage's part.
Nice.
What else? we
Ashton
got?
Kutcher, what year do you think this is?
I don't remember. I live in the past, man. I live in the past.
Yep.
What else at MGM?
Oh, dude, it could be anything. I mean,
Wizard. The
yeah.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Now, see, that one I would be all right with.
Yeah.
Of course you would.
If it would do something like different.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the Oz, the Powerful Oz.
Here's the thing. There's a
Sam
lot
Raimi.
of... I
It
mean,
looked amazing.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Oh, the Sam Raimi one? Yeah, before you said that, I completely forgot it existed.
Yeah.
I was like, what's he talking? Oh, shit, that was a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely blanked on it. And I saw it in the theater.
I saw it twice in the theater. I liked it. I own it. My kids liked it, but it was a different spin on something.
Right.
James Franco was terrible,
Right.
sure, but I mean, I liked it. It was just a different spin on,
Classic story.
Classic story.
And I'm fine with
it's-
that. And your boy Burton tried to do that with the
Alice.
Alice in Wonderland. It was just
When you were watching that the other week, I had no idea what I was like. What is he watching? Is he watching is he
The
watching?
British one is good, and then remember the TV show one where Martin Short played. They did a big TV. Whoopi Goldberg was a Cheshire Cat. Yeah, it was a big TV mini-series thing. Did three? That one was. They did it by the book, so it was good because it was by the book.
right.
Tina Majeri. Hey man, I'm an Alice fan. I like that
No.
stuff.
I'd like it better if they just stopped fucking with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
There you go. So the Russo brothers
Yeah.
are going to get paid millions of dollars to screw with everything and turn the MGM archive upside
You know
down.
what they could remake? Prime Cut. Just throwing that out there.
That would be cool. Yeah. Now that's something I would go to see.
Yeah, especially if you cast that right.
Right.
You definitely-
Because that's the sort of movies that I think if you're going to remake something,
Right.
go something that's kind of under the radar. That it might have a small following, but it's not much, and then you can kind of take that story and make it into your own thing.
Yeah, but does the Thomas Crown Affair have a huge... Is that anybody's favorite Steve McQueen movie? I've never heard anybody say that.
No,
is
Exactly.
it anybody's Pierce Bronson's?
Brosnan.
Whatever.
Okay.
Was it Charles Bronson or Pierce Brosnan's or whoever? Thomas Crown.
It was a Bronson.
Renee Russo, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
And but I mean, it's just well, as long as if it looks good, I'll go see it. I don't really, like I said, some at night, like 99% of movies are bullshit. Like really, if you think about if there's 300 made a year, there's 300 movies made a year. How many do we actually see? Well, we see 10 of those.
you are on the top echelon of that.
I'm talking about average people, not me, not normal people.
I would say,
So really,
thanks to the golden ticket, I see probably. Well, I would say when I was working for the AMC, I'd see a good 65%. Now I'd say 35%.
right? But I mean, there's hundreds made a year in various countries and stuff. Most of them are garbage. You and I have both worked on movies that have never been released.
Oh God, yeah.
And it's just like most art is bad. So if they're going to remake art, most of them are going to be bad. It's not that big a deal.
Two empty chairs. Doug's been an actor in 2 of my films that never got cut.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Need to get those out there, man.
I think it's a little late for that.
All the footage is melted.
No, I still have them, but I don't think they'd be very relevant now. I mean, I guess we could just cut it together.
They weren't relevant then, but who fucking cares? It was still a good time.
Anyway.
All right. Well, you got us a video?
I do.
I think it's already on the website.
It is.
So cool.
But we could have recorded this yesterday, so they wouldn't have known that. But it doesn't matter now.
Oh, yeah. We could have.
Anyway.
Busted. There you go. Behind the scenes.
Yeah, there we go. Right. It's a movie from Germany or Austria, actually, from 2017 called Cold Hell, and it's available on Shudder. And you can also rent it on Apple, but it's streaming on Shudder, and it's.
Let me write this one down.
All right, write it down.
I need to earn my $5 for the month.
Okay, Cold Hell. And as we were talking about earlier, a lot of Giallo movies have to do with a lot of horror movies in general have to do with Christianity, particularly Catholicism. And this is really the only genre movie I've ever seen that deals specifically with Islam. And there's a lot of Middle Eastern people in Germany and Austria. And this young lady, I'd say she's in her early to mid 20s, and cab driver. Just broke up with a boyfriend. She's not her family's from Turkey. She's not religious. She takes kickboxing. Just lives with her cousin. And one night she comes home from work and she looks across the street, just like in a lot of Giallos. She sees a murder. This guy is basically using sort of Old Testament style punishment for what he views as sinners. Prostitutes, people who cheat on their spouse. And basically he brings in like a little hot plate and boils up a pot of boiling oil and burns them with boiling oil and then cuts and basically skins them.
Okay.
So he views himself as this sort of very righteous kind of similar to the killer in Torso. Like he, hates sexuality. And she happens to look across the street right when this is ending, and the guy's in shadow, but she can definitely see his eyes, and they're looking right at her. So she goes to calls the cops, and the cops come, and the woman her neighbor was a prostitute and got murdered and everything. And they tell her they've been there were similar murders in Libya and Indonesia, in various other countries. Usually 2 or 3 at a time, then they'll move to a different country. And basically, the guy now she knows the killer knows who she is. So basically, the whole movie's a chase between her and the killer. Okay. And she's and just like in the thing that's different is at the beginning the cop's he's a Giallo cop. He's like, you'll be okay. But then the cop gets really invested in the story, and you kind of see why he is sort of standoffish with her. And it was really well done. Like the actress is great. Cool. She's a lot of times in movies they'll have a actress who's supposed to be like a tough chick, and you can definitely tell that no, but she actually sells it. Her coming in, being a cab driver comes into it when the killer basically gets in her car in the middle of the night as a fare, and they basically have this fight scene as she's driving a car. And I thought it was really well done. And like I said, I can't remember her name. She has a very long German name, but she's great. Cool. And I talked about how Torso might be a good place for people. If people might want to watch this because it's a contemporary movie, it's only 2 years old. This would be a great place because it is very Giallo-like, with the exception of the dramatic. It doesn't have the randomness. There's no hippie sex orgies. It's just about her as sort of the protagonist, you know. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was worth my $5 for Shudder this month. Just see it, Cold Hell.
There you go. All right, I'll check it out tonight then. All right. Well, my showdown this week is another good one that just kind of organically.
How was last week's?
Well, glad that you asked. Mother received 37% of the votes, and Fountain received 63%. Okay. And there was 1% from Stephen Ronquillo, if I spell that right, or if I pronounce that right. Stephen Ronquillo says, "I want an option for neither."
I agree with you, Stephen. They're both terrible.
Oh, there you go.
Although your friend from the podcast was heavily in the mother side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he said he watched it and loved it.
And Mike D. Silvestri, my old friend from film school, good friend from Los Angeles, said Mother, 100%. Yep. So,
unfortunately, not enough of them voted that where it could win, so it doesn't matter.
That's correct. Well, this week's showdown is yet another topic that we just discussed. Which Tim Burton film has more heart? Ed Scissorhands or Ed Wood? There you go. It'll be up on the Facebook page. We'll find out. I apparently all mine have lost. The happy ending lost. Mother lost. I would say that Ed Wood has more heart.
To me, it does, but I'm sure to people who don't give a crap about filmmaking, I'm going to go ahead and say Edward Scissorhands going to win on a landslide.
Landslide.
Yeah, unless you're a Burton fan,
right?
I don't think a lot of people probably even know Ed Wood, and
although we are on a film.
Really, and if it's one that you have not seen and you heard us talking about,
it's his best movie.
It is probably his best movie, for sure. I think all three of us would agree on that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
By a landslide.
Yeah. And I love Edward Scissorhands. Oh, yeah. But it's But this is something different. This is an ode to old school filmmaking and to some people that he obviously influenced his everything.
Yeah.
When he's dressed as the woman and they're shooting and there's a cop. What do we do? And he just goes, we don't have any permits. Run! And they just all grab the cameras and stuff.
It's the best ever. It's the best ever.
Yeah.
It's really, really
out of the announcements, when we're finished with this block, we're going to do a one-off. We're going to go to one of our sponsors' place, The Spot, and we are going to pick a used movie out of their selection, and we're going to watch it right there.
Yep.
And we're going to do a one-off, and then we'll be back with British comedy.
Yep. Exactly.
British comedy.
That's it.
That's good.
And if we've said this over the past couple weeks, but if you whatever you listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, just give us a like, a review. If there's a 4-star thing, whatever amount of stars you think we deserve. I'm not gonna tell you what to pick, but just the more reviews and things we get, that really does help out the show.
It does. And we are at a 5-star rating on Apple iTunes right now. So, yes, we could use them. We could use subscriptions, even if you don't listen.
Yeah.
We could use reviews. And our Patreon page, yes, is not up yet.
Yeah, it's coming.
Life has gotten in the way, but it is coming. And that's pretty much it for this show.
That's it.
Next
week we're going to be reviewing Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper, and we're going from weird yet somewhat classy to just sleazy. Yeah,
sounds like my kind of film.
There we go.
So till next week, keep watching the movies. This is a Mad Tea Party production. Thank you to our other sponsors. Golden Ticket Cinemas, $5 movies all day on Tuesday. The Spot Toys in Newton, Connecticut. The Dugout, Hickory, North Carolina.